everyone. With a little bit of a late start, we are now ready to start our first council meeting for North College Hill for the year 2024. It is January 2nd. We will start our meeting, as we always do, with our prayer for NCH City Council, and then do Pledge of Allegiance. So everyone please stand. God our Father, we are all your servants. We trust in your mercy and love. We trust also in your guidance. Direct the meetings of this council of North College Hill to make good decisions for all the people who live in our city. Give all the members of this council wisdom and insight to know what is best for our city. Help us to be fair and just in all our decisions. Bless us all to do the very best we can. With your help and guidance, we pray this in your name. Amen. Call this meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. So a bit of a late start because our organizational meeting ran a little bit long, but we are now ready to get moving here.
This is your reminder.
Mr. Hedger, when you are ready, please call the roll.
Ms. Sorb.
Here.
Ms. DeWald.
Here.
Ms. Underwood.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Got it backwards. Ms. Dukestein.
Here.
Ms. Alexander.
Here.
Ms. Brunner.
Here.
Ms. Davis.
Here.
Mr. Davis, excuse me. Ms. Underwood.
Here.
My apologies. Mr. Davis.
New council members, new seating arrangement. We'll give you a little grace, Mr. Hedger.
Throw me off. No.
All right, thank you. All right, we do have tonight's agenda in front of us.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. DeWald to accept tonight's agenda as presented. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb.
Here?
Mr. Wall.
Sorry, yes. This is a yes one.
Yeah.
My bad.
Ms. DeWald.
I'm confused. Yes.
Ms. Dukestein.
Yes.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. We have the minutes from the council meeting held on 12/18/2023.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
the only thing that I would add to the minutes is that when I was reporting on rules and public policy and public safety, I did mention that the next meeting was scheduled for December 26th, but I also mentioned that that meeting would be canceled. So if we can just.
It is further down.
Oh,
It's
okay.
chronological and when it happened.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
I move to accept the minutes.
Under new business.
Okay. Mr. President,
Okay.
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that.
Motion from Ms. DeWald, second from Ms. Underwood to adopt the minutes from the 12/18/2023 meeting. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb.
Yes.
Ms. DeWald.
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein.
Yes.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Next item is communication. Mr. Hedger, do we have any communication this evening?
I have no communication, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is we do have a special guest this evening. Commissioner Denise Driehaus is here. Please take the lectern and
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'm going to hand something out, and I apologize for not doing this before the meeting. Just a second. This
Thank
is
you.
a menu of opportunity. It talks about the partnerships between the 49 jurisdictions in the county and the county organization. There are 49 jurisdictions in Hamilton County. That's like County 101, just in case. people don't realize. So I was here, yeah, you're welcome to, back in 2016 or so. And so I handed the same thing out. It's been updated since then. We have expanded the opportunities to partner. And really, that's why I'm here tonight. I just want to talk a little bit about partnership between your city of North College Hill and the county. But before I get to that, I wanted to do a brief update on what's going on at the county. I'm happy to entertain questions if you have them after I'm finished. I'm only going to take about 3 minutes. I know you all have a long meeting. It's interesting to come to your organizational meeting and to see all of you. I haven't been here in a while, and many of the faces at the dais has changed. So it's a pleasure meeting all of you. So you'll be glad to know we just passed a balanced budget at the county. We have an annual budget, and we were about $40 million off this year from the requests from all the departments. Think about the sheriff's department, think about emergency management, the comms department that does 911, all the departments that are under the county. The requests were very optimistic. Our revenues were not as optimistic, but we did close that gap and passed a balanced budget. Lots of priorities in there, but the one thing I want to highlight is that we at the county, when I first arrived 7 years ago, we did not have the resources to pay competitive wages. We were losing people like crazy to Warren County and Butler County. And so we said to ourselves, well, we need to not only retain, but also recruit people into our organization to serve your constituents. And so we provided some extra resources through a sales tax, and we did a competitive wage study. We also did a pay equity study, ladies. We're 98 cents on the dollar, which I think is pretty darn good. We got 2 cents to go, but we're working on it. But we did a competitive wage study to make sure that we were in the competitive market with other counties, our competitive set, which is those that surround us, but also Cuyahoga and Montgomery and Franklin counties, the large counties in Ohio. And so we did the study. We did then an adjustment within the organization to bring everybody within a range, and we are now paying people at the county a competitive wage. We've got a parental leave policy. We've got tuition reimbursement. It's important because think of the folks that work for the county. We're talking about people that answer the 911 calls. We're talking about the sheriff's deputies. We're talking about the folks over in the courthouse. We're talking about the the JFS workers that keep kids safe in this community. I mean, these are really important jobs. And so we need to keep these folks. And so we were trying desperately to stabilize the organization, and I'm glad to report that we have done that. And all of the other organizations that are not directly under the county commission, but rather duly elected on their own, say the sheriff, she followed suit and did the same thing in her department. So now we have gotten into range for all the departments. It's good news because we've got people working at the county that are being paid a competitive wage, and the service to the county and the residents is increased when we do that. So I'm really proud of it. I was Todd Portune and I led the charge on that. Todd, as you know, is no longer with us, but I was really proud to do that work with him. We also have invested. We got a lot of money from the federal government. You all got some money as well. During the COVID crisis. And so we did a lot of emergency relief through rent assistance, small business assistance, vaccines. You were there, you know. But we also took some of the money and said, we want to do some transformational things in this county with these dollars because we're not going to see this kind of money again. And so we invested in affordable housing, and that money is still rolling out in partnership with the communities in which we're doing that work. In some areas, in some communities, think City of Cincinnati, that housing is dense and multi-unit. In other places, think outside the City of Cincinnati, sometimes it looks like a Habitat home. Sometimes it looks like a 4-family unit. Depends on what's appropriate for the community. But we're working with developers and communities to make sure that we're hitting the mark there, and we've got about $40 million going out. We've also invested in workforce development. We're investing in youth development. We're particularly focused on mental health for youth. I'm sure you all are familiar with the numbers of kids coming out of COVID, and they feel isolated, they feel stressed. There's increased suicide ideation in schools. And so we are trying to think through that and how to address some of those concerns that have been brought to us as county commissioners. There's other work going on. I'm not going to go through my whole list. One thing that we are going to be talking about very seriously this year is the renegotiation of the lease with the Bengals. Everybody asked me this question, so I'm just going to tell you that we've been negotiating with the Bengals for 7 years, since I've been there. We all know that we've got one of the worst leases in the country when it comes to our professional football team. I promise you we will do better in the new lease. My two colleagues, Commissioner Summer-Odumas and Commissioner Reese, and I are dedicated and committed to having a lease that is more fair to the taxpayers. And because we have so many renovations to do at the stadium, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of renovations. And we've got a sales tax in place to pay for some of that. The sales tax does not generate enough revenue to do some of the repairs. We're talking about, cement work. We're talking about waterproofing. We're also talking about some improvements. And so we want to, instead of the county taxpayer paying about 96% of those renovations, which is what happened last time, we're looking for a financial stack that includes the Bengals, that includes the NFL, and that includes the state of Ohio. That's what other communities are doing throughout the country. That's what we expect to do. We've got some experts on our team who have negotiated these leases in other parts of the country, and so they know how to do this work, and so they have joined our team, and I'm optimistic about how the lease negotiation will go. It expires in 2026, but we're hoping to get it done before that expiration date. And I think everybody is anxious about it. We're obviously trying to keep the team here, but we're also trying to improve that community asset so that we can use it for Bengals games, but we can also use it for Taylor Swift concerts or Beyonce if she were to happen by, or anybody else that wants to use that stadium for high school football games, meeting, all the kinds of things that a community asset should be to this community. And so we're working, that would be included in the lease as well. So more to come on that. We've got a little bit of time, but we're starting in earnest to talk to that organization January of this year. So that work is coming. And then lastly, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this menu. We have tried really hard to partner with the jurisdictions in Hamilton County, and you can see some of what those opportunities look like, and they're varied. There's a lot of variation in them, but I wanted to highlight some of the things that have happened since I was last here. The Community Revitalization Grant is an opportunity for communities to identify a catalytic project in your community and then apply to the county for these dollars. The applications open up in March of this year. We've done, I think it's 2 rounds. We've set aside a couple $1 million for this purpose, and so I'm hopeful that North College Hill will take a look at that. We also have small event grants. So if you have a small event, perhaps in the summer, that you do every year and would like to have the county participate financially so that you can make it bigger and better than ever, the smaller event grant is meant for that. A much lower dollar amount, but important when you think about the partnership with the county. We also do CDBG money. You guys have taken advantage of that, and some of the community impact grants. So I just want to once again, thank you for the partnership that North College Hill has had with the county, and remind you, in the last few years, you all have taken advantage, especially of the CDBG dollars. You've done, is it Dumel Park? Dumel Park? The demo and the water park, the playground, all of those funds, some funds came in from the county to help with those projects. We did some traffic calming work on Galbraith Road. You all did that. We partnered with you. And you've gotten some dollars through the Solid Waste District for residential recycling. So again, partnerships only work when we offer it and you apply for it, right? If neither of those happen, it doesn't work. So I don't know who in this organization is applying for the dollars, but thank you for the partnership. Thank you all for the direction to reach out to the county and partner. We're trying really hard to be honest and true to the partnership that as we want to at the county level. And so I just thank you for the partnership that you've provided in the past and encourage you to take a look at some of these other dollars that you have not received in the past and take a look at it. And if you have any questions about any of it, please call my office. My info, as are the other commissioners listed there on the back. Holly Chrisman is the person in our organization that handles a lot of this work. She's fantastic. I will happily transfer you to her so that she can answer all your questions. But I really do appreciate you giving me the time, Mayor and council members. Congratulations to the new members for having me out, and so I can take a little bit of time to just give you an update on what's going on in Hamilton County. Happy to answer questions if you have them.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Driehaus. Anyone have any questions?
Yes, please.
Mr. Davis.
Now, I don't.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
please, anytime you want to speak, just address me as Mr. President, and then I will give you your time.
Okay.
Okay?
Mr. President,
Mr. Davis.
Okay. Commissioner Dreehouse, I don't see the land bank and the port listed as part of these people that that we're able to collaborate with. Now how will we go about finding that pathway? How do we go about qualifying for those agencies?
So the port is an independent agency. It was set up through the county and the city, so it's a partnership amongst the two. They have their own board. And Laura Brunner is the director, but they have a port that is appointed by the city and the county. I will happily give you that contact information if you reach out to my office, and it puts you in touch with Laura Brunner. The land bank sits under the port, and so that, Laura, again, is kind of the key on that. That also has an independent board that creates policy for the land bank. The commissioners all sit on that board, as does the mayor of the city of Cincinnati and a couple others. So happy to give you that contact information if you've got ideas or would just like to be kept in the loop with the port and the land bank work. Happily connect you to Laura Brunner.
Okay.
Yeah, and my contact information's on the back. Just shoot me an email.
Mr. President, oh, I'm sorry. Got it? Done.
Ms. Brunner.
We in North College Hill love grants, and thank you very much.
So does everybody else.
And what was that deadline for grants? What month? You
So,
mentioned a month.
The revitalization grant, this is fairly new. It's new since the last time I was here. Started a couple years ago. Actually, I initiated this one, so I'm very proud of it. We have set, I'm trying to remember, it did scale back a little bit in this budget. It's either $2.5 or $3 million total for the revitalization grants for communities. The application opens in March. It's generally a 30-day deadline, so look for it in the beginning of March. If you've got a project that you know would be catalytic to spur other economic development, in a business district, for instance, we are happy to partner with you. You have to be eligible for it. Holly Chrisman will happily walk you through so that you have a successful application, if possible, because we want the communities to apply and be successful, and we want to spread it around. We don't want the same communities to apply and succeed every single time because the other applications weren't eligible or didn't meet the requirements. So please reach out. That one's one that this community has not taken advantage of. And the small event grant, and credit where credit's due, Commissioner Summer Dumas is the one that initiated the small events grant. We've run that, I think, once or twice. Again, fairly new. The dollar amounts are less than the revitalization grants are like $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. It's significant. These are much smaller, like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. But it can be a big deal if you're hiring, a music group to come in, or you're purchasing chairs and tables, or whatever it is. That one I don't have the timing on. But again, if you reach out and send me an email, I can get all that information back out to you and make sure that you're aware of it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
Any other questions for the commissioner?
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
so is there a list somewhere of all of the grant opportunities and other opportunities available through the Hamilton County Commissioners?
On our website, I believe. I've got it in front of me, so I suppose it's on the website. I don't go to our website very often. But yeah, we have, our website's been updated. And again, Holly Chrisman is running point on most of this.
Can you spell her name?
Christ, man.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, if you run into any questions or roadblocks or anything, I mean, I'm here to serve, just like you guys are here to serve. And I want you to succeed in the applications. So feel free to reach out to myself or Commissioner Dumas or Commissioner Reese anytime, and we'd be happy to connect you with the right people by way of all these different opportunities. But the website is, an iteration of all the different things that we have to offer. It's quite a bit, actually. It's more than it used to be.
Last call for questions.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
so you've given us the name Holly Christman? And is there an email address for her, or a phone number?
There is.
Like, is it on here? Did I overlook it?
She's the Assistant County Administrator. She's
Okay.
also on the website. I'm hesitating because it's Christ Man. It might be two N's on the end of her name, so I don't want to steer you in the wrong
Okay,
direction.
sure.
But it's Holly Chrisman at hamilton-co.org is all of our email addresses. In fact, that's on there. So if you look at my email address, hers is the
Just put
same,
her
just
name
her
there.
name. Yeah,
Okay.
with a dot in between the first and
Yes,
last.
thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, sure thing.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dixon.
I'm going to challenge you just a bit. I went to the website and I was trying to see if I could find the area for the grants. And would it be grants and assistance programs?
I don't know what's listed under that. Is it there's a revitalization grant, impact grant, small event grant, large event grant.
Yes.
That's what
I
they're-
found it. Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate you finding that.
Thank you.
I'm glad it's on there. I hate to speak out of turn, but I'm pretty confident about our administration putting stuff up there, so,
Well, Commissioner Dreehouse, thank you very much for
Yeah,
coming tonight. We
sure thing.
appreciate it.
thank you. Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is council committees, starting with City Community Development and Recreation
Mr. President, we have not had a meeting yet. Our next meeting is January 8th,
at 6:30, correct?
6:30 PM.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, Budget and Finance.
Mr. President, we have not had a meeting, and we will also be meeting January the 8th at 7:30 PM.
January 8th.
Thank you. Next is Rules and Public Policy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our last meeting would have been on December 26th. That meeting was canceled. Our next meeting, I'm not sure when our next meeting will be. I think that we're going to figure that out. It's currently scheduled for the fourth Monday in January at 6:30, but depending on what we decide, we'll figure that out.
So currently, it is scheduled for January 22nd at 6:30.
At 6:30, that's correct.
Thank you. Next, Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. Currently, our last meeting would have been on December 26th. That meeting was canceled. Our next meeting is currently scheduled for January 22nd at 7:30 PM.
All right, thank you. Next is Ad hoc Reports. Does anyone have an ad hoc report this evening?
Mr. President,
Mr. Davis?
what is an ad hoc report?
So we have other committees that members of the council are part of, or, so I know one of the ones we got to discuss tonight is CIC, but OKI. So there's a list. We'll have a little discussion about that in new business tonight.
Okay.
But if somebody goes to school board meetings and represents us there as well, so that's what the ad hoc reports are.
Okay.
All right, hearing none, we'll move to administrative reports. Good evening, Madam Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would first of all like to wish everyone a happy new year. 23 went very fast. Prayerfully, 24 will do the same, but hopefully, with that in mind, we can get our heads together, get some things accomplished this year going forward. New council, new ideas. I'm glad you brought up CIC, Mr. President, because I was going to with the exit of Ms. Blythe. I know we have two members who are also already attend CIC. I'm not sure if they plan to stay, but we will need a new member for CIC council representation. That's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any questions for the mayor? All right, we'll move on to the city administrator's report. Ms. Eke.
Mr. Graver, good evening, everyone. I would like to echo the mayor's Happy New Year comments. Looking forward to 2024 and making some progress and some steps forward on the initiatives that we've been talking about or hope to start this year. And other than that, I do not have a report tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Eke. Anyone have any questions for the city administrator? All right, next is law director's report, and Mr. Dieters had to go swear in some people at another council meeting tonight, so he is not with us. And then the finance director's report, and we do not have a report from the finance director. So next will be call of members, starting with Ms. Zorb.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to say Happy New Year. I don't really have anything else to attend to at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. DeWald?
I too would like to wish everyone a healthy and happy new year. And I wanted to give a shout out to Doug, but I'm not sure that's his name. You remember? We were gonna, anyway, if he's out there, hello. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Dukestein?
I would like to extend a happy new year to everyone. Thank you, Ms. Treehouse, for coming out and guiding us towards those grants. They seem to be very useful for us, and I will forward them on to everybody else, at least the link, so it's easy to find. I also would like to say that I had a good time at the Christmas party, and thank you for everyone who attended. Not that I should be thanking, I just was happy to see everybody. I also had the opportunity over the long break to visit Lakeisha Sager, and I was very pleased to see that she's doing much better. And that is all.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander.
It's Ms. Dukestein.
I'm sorry, Ms. Dukestein. I got ahead of myself. Next up is Ms. Alexander. My apologies.
Just like to say Happy New Year. Ready to get this year started with new ideas and resolving some old ones. And I'd like to welcome Mr. Davis to his first council meeting. That's it.
Thank you. Next up is Ms. Bruner.
Happy New Year, North College Hill and everybody. Congratulations to all those that were sworn in. And I'm glad to hear you say Lakeisha was doing better. Glad to hear that. That's wonderful news that she's doing better. And let's hit the ground running. At my city community development, you got information about the city or something need to be done, let's do it. Let's do it. It's time. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Hey, thank you. Hello, happy New Year to everyone in the room and in the city. Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all for allow me in, and I promise not to mess everything up. I might leave a couple things on the floor from time to time, but I'll try my best to pick up after myself. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And finally, Ms. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am so excited to be sitting in this chair. It's the little
cool
things.
chair.
It's the little things. Happy New Year. I would like to say congratulations, Mayor Tracy Nichols. You were sworn in, and I did not, I understood the magic of the moment, I'm going to say, like I didn't get the first time. The first time I was just trying to get back home, to get back in the bed, but I understood the magic of that moment. So congratulations to you and your family. I would also like to say congratulations to Ms. Dewald and Ms. Alexander and Mr. Davis, because I have run for office not only in North College Hill, but also in other places. And running for office, and also Ms. Zorb, congratulations, because running for political office is not for the faint of heart. I will say that. You are standing there shaking hands with people you do not know and talking to people, and you don't know whether the RBF is for you or something else or what. So I just want to say congratulations on those who won their elections, and congratulations to you for stepping out there to run, because when we don't have if we don't have people stepping up to run for office, we don't have different and a variation of ideas. And I think that that is important. So if I didn't say so already, congratulations, Happy New Year. Welcome, Mr. Davis.
Thank
Look forward to working with you. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is remarks from the audience. Mr. Hedger, do we have anyone signed in?
No, Mr. President.
All right, we'll move to legislation. You're ready, Mr. Hedger.
First reading resolution number 1, 2024, a resolution requesting the county auditor to make advance payment of taxes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hedger. Next on the agenda is further remarks from the audience. If anyone would like to address council now regarding this legislation. First resolution of 2024. All right, we'll move to old business. All right, hearing no old business, then we'll move to new business. One of the things that I do know we need to do is we need to vote if we want to retain Mr. Hedger as our clerk.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb.
I'm looking over there like.
Ms. Zorb.
I'd like to make a motion that we retain Mr. Hedger as our clerk for the next 2 years.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukes Dean.
I'd like to second that.
So Mr. Hedger reminded me that we needed to do that, so I assume he is still interested in doing it, so we'll just go ahead with the vote. All right, so the motion by Ms. Dukes, or by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Dukes Dean, to retain Mr. Hedger as our clerk for council for 2 more years. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I think we should vote before he changes his mind.
Okay. Mr. Hedger, you get to call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
A wise decision, council. Thank you for that, Mr.
Thank you,
Hedger. I
Mr.
seriously,
Hedger.
no, you have done a great job for us, and I appreciate all your efforts
Thank you.
helping keep me organized especially, so thank you for that. All right, some things we do need to vote on coming from the organizational meeting. Mary Jo Zorb has agreed to continue as president pro tempore.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood,
I move that Ms. Zorb be named or appointed president pro tem.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. DeWald. For Ms. Zorb to continue as president pro tem for another 2-year term. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
do I vote on that or do I abstain?
You can vote.
Yeah, I don't know why you couldn't vote on it. It doesn't change your
Vote for
pay.
yourself.
All right, any other discussion? All right, again, the motion is from Ms. Underwood and seconded by Ms. DeWald for
that's what I
Ms. Zorb to be president pro tempore for the next 2 years. Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. DeWald,
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Next, we do have a change here for the chair of public safety. Ms. Underwood has agreed to step down as the chair of public safety. Ms. DeWald has volunteered, so we need to vote.
We need a motion.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Ms. DeWald as the chair of public safety.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
I'd like to second that.
All right. Motion by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Dukestein, to appoint Ms. DeWald as chair of the Public Safety Committee. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. DeWald,
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay, now that will open up the vice chair position for that committee, as Ms. DeWald was the vice chair for the Public Safety Committee, so.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood,
I move that Mr. Davis be appointed the vice chair of the Public Safety Committee.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein,
I'd like to second that.
All right, so the motion is to appoint Mr. Davis as the vice chair for Public Safety Committee. That motion is by Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. Dukes Dean. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Dukes Dean,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed, 7-0.
Thank you. All right, the last, well, two more coming out of the organizational meeting. Mary Jo Zorb has expressed her desire to be the chair for the Finance Committee that is currently chaired by Ms. Dukes Dean. Ms. Dukes Dean wishes to also maintain her position as the chair of the Finance Committee.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I just have a question about how this will work. That's all. I just want you to explain to us.
If someone makes a motion for Ms. Zorb, and we get a second, and we'll call a vote.
Oh, okay.
Mr. President, I have a question. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I just want to get clarity in my head. Someone does not have to step down for someone to take your chair place. Is that how that
Correct.
works?
Yes, so I mean, if council makes a motion,
Okay.
we will take a vote on it.
Okay.
Did you have something, Ms. Zorb?
I did. I would like to make a motion to appoint myself, Ms. Zorb, as chair of the Finance Committee.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukes Dean?
I'd like to second that.
All right, motion from Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Dukes Dean for Ms. Zorb to become chair of the Finance Committee. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I just, again, because I like to make sure I know what's going on. You want to, Ms. Dukes Dean, you want to be the chair, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Any other discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Dukes Dean,
No.
Ms. Alexander,
No.
Ms. Brunner,
No.
Mr. Davis,
No.
Ms. Underwood.
No,
Motion failed, 5-2.
Thank you. The other thing that I know we did need to talk about tonight is Ms. Blythe was the council rep for the CIC.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
actually, I am the council rep for the CIC.
She was.
Oh,
Ms. Blythe just attended and gave the reports.
She just kind of
oh, okay.
stepped on my toes, and I just decided that I was not going to fight that battle, so.
My apologies.
I didn't listen to both.
So we do not need a rep for CIC,
If she's,
unless you
I am the representative. I intend to attend the meeting.
copy that.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb.
don't we still need to assign the chairs for the other meetings?
Oh, I'm sorry. So what do we got left here?
Mr. President, I have a question for Ms. Orb, actually.
Yes.
So this is not the same as the other committees. So if you want to stay ICRC, don't you just, it's just status quo, right?
Correct. If you want to stay on the committee that you were on in your past term, it stays the same unless somebody, in this case, somebody wants to do it, so they say, I'd like to be on finance, and it gets voted on. So if you wanted to be on ICRC, they would have to vote you in.
So the committee or the council rules, we're not clear on exactly how that works. So my interpretation of council rules was unless somebody proposed a change, that
Everything's
the
right.
chairs remain the same.
Okay.
Or if someone is no longer with council, obviously, and we need to make a change.
Okay.
But if somebody disagrees with me, now would be a perfect time for that discussion. But that is how I interpreted it.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
can I just ask if there's anybody who doesn't want to stay on their committee? Okay.
So we do still need to vote for Mr. Davis to join another committee, but I wasn't going to force him to make that selection tonight.
No pressure.
As we have typically allowed somebody to go attend meetings and make those decisions, so
Mr. President,
I'll give Mr. Davis that one. Yes.
is ICRC, is that a subdivision of a committee, or is that or something separate?
So ICRC is the public access
Right.
cable that is, and Ms. Zorb is
Ms.
currently
Zorb.
the chair of that.
Yes.
And it is an ad hoc, it is another one of the ad hoc committees. We'll make sure you get the list of what all the committees
Okay.
are outside of the council committees and the ad hoc.
Okay. So I'd be reporting to Ms. Zorb, because that's something I'm interested in doing.
No,
Mr. President, may I reply?
Ms. Zorb, go ahead.
Actually, ICRC is, I go to their board meetings out in Sharonville.
Right.
So I just go to those meetings and then report back of what happened at the board meeting.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein.
for the sake of clarity, you have to be a part of the council committee meetings. That one would be ad hoc.
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to make
Yes,
sure that
so-
Mr. Davis understood
And-
that.
Again, I want to give Mr. Davis some time before he decides his other committee, as he's already volunteered to be vice chair of public safety, so we can vote on that at a future meeting.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I would also like to suggest that we give Mr. Davis an opportunity to learn what the ad hoc committees are, get a description of those committees, and give him the opportunity to become the council representative, if that's what he's interested in doing, since, I don't mean to talk about you like you're not here, but it's just, all of this there's a huge learning curve, and I just want to make sure we're not closing the door because this is our first meeting of the year.
So I'd actually, Mr. Hedger, could you, in a future time here, email out the list of all the committees?
Yeah.
Ad hoc
absolutely.
and the council committees to everyone, so we'll all know who is where?
Yep.
It's a good point, Ms. Underwood, thank you.
Mr. President.
Ms. DeWald.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify too with Ms. Underwood. Am I also the vice chair for laws and rules?
No,
No.
Ms. Zorb is,
Okay.
unless she doesn't want to be.
If you want it, you can have it. Okay.
Mr. President,
Mr. Hedger.
did Mr. Davis say he was going to join Community Rec and Budget and Finance? Or was that not discussed yet?
I think he's still thinking about it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm going to allow him some time to figure that out. Okay, does anyone else have any new business?
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
I move that we go into an executive session pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22, under Section G1. Do I need to read that whole paragraph too? To consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I am not going to reread the entire thing there. We have a motion to go into executive session. Who all is coming into the executive session?
Um,
Council and.
Council, the mayor, and the city administrator. Okay, so the motion is by Ms. DeWald to go into executive session. It is seconded by Ms. Zorb. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. DeWald,
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay, we will adjourn this meeting, go into executive session, and then we will come back and conclude our business here.
Bye.
I gotta back up.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
We're going to go into the office. Good.
Is all of council
right.
here?
We'll bring this meeting back into session.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb,
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
Mr. President.
I think Ms. DeWald got started first.
I second that.
All right, motion to adjourn by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. DeWald. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, thank you for waiting for us. Please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. DeWald,
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.